Hello children, I am Neha Singh, PRT at DM School, RI, Bhubaneswar. Today we are going to complete Unit 5 of your English NCERT book. Unit 5 comprises of a poem and a story. The poem name is The Lazy Frog and the story name is Rip Van Winkle. So first of all, we will look at the poem. So let's start with the poem The Lazy Frog. On a school day, you are busy studying, playing and chatting with friends. When you have a holiday from school, what do? Would you behave a little like the frog in the following poem? So here the poet is asking, generally on a school day we all are busy in studying, playing and chatting with friends. But on a holiday we all are feeling a little lazy. So the poet wants you to ask that your laziness is little like the frog in the following poem, the poem which we are going to read. So let's see how much the lazy frog is in the following poem. First of all, we will recite the poem. So let's start. Fred is a very lazy frog. Fred is a very lazy frog who lolls all day upon a log. Who lolls all day upon a log. He always manages to shuck. He always manages to shuck. Doing a single stroke of work. Doing a single stroke of work. His poor old mother calls in vain. His poor old mother calls in vain. Come in and help. Come in and help. He does not bother to move. He does not bother to move. 2 inches much preferring to be extremely hard of hearing. To be extremely hard of hearing. He lies there in a silent heap. He lies there in a silent heap and stays conveniently asleep. And stays conveniently asleep. If a lady frog hops past, you would think he would get up at last. If a lady frog hops past, you would think he would get up at last to bow and help her on her way. But no, I am ashamed to say. But no, I am ashamed to say that when a lady frog comes by, he does not open up one eye. He does not open up one eye. So, this is the recitation of the poem. So, now I will tell what the poet wants to say in this poem. So, there is a frog whose name is Fred, and he is a very lazy frog. He was lying up all day. He was lying on a log. A log is a wooden trunk of a tree. And he always manages to not do any kind of work with lots of excuses. And always his poor mother calling him for help, but he does not bother to say to go and help her mother. And the frog laziness level is that much that even he would prefer to become a deaf than to move 2 inches. He always lies in a high place and always there he is sleeping. And if even a lady frog comes on her way, you would think he would get up to show some respect to that lady and to help her. But I am ashamed to say that even for that lady he would not get up. Not even he would not get up, and also he would not look at that lady to with opening up his eyes. So can you see that how much the lazy frog is, how much the frog laziness level is? So if you are also feeling lazy, if you are also feeling lazy, that kind of laziness on a holiday, it's okay. But feeling laziness is not always good. You have to utilize your spare time in doing some recreational activities, some interesting activities which you like. Like you can help your mother in cooking, in washing utensils, or maybe some small works. Or you can also read an autobiography, you can also read a comic book, or you can play with your friends, or you can go on a picnic with your friends, relatives, or with family. So you have to utilize your spare time in some kind of recreational activities. Do not try to waste your time. If you will utilize your time in recreational activities, you will not feel laziness. So here we had completed this poem. So now we will look at the new words which we have learned in this poem. Lol, to lie around lazily. Log, trunk of a tree that has been cut. Shirk, to not do something you should do. In vain, uselessly. Prefer, like something better. Hard of hearing, deaf. Bow, to bend your head to show respect. So now look at the story. So the story name is Rip Van Winkle. So before starting the story, let's look at the introduction, what the story is all about. This story is about Rip Van Winkle, a good-natured but lazy man who goes away into the hills and falls asleep. When he awakens 20 years later, Rip finds that quite a few things have changed. So here, what is story is all about, that here a man whose name is Rip Van Winkle, and he is a very good-natured man, but a little problem with him is that he is very lazy. And due to his laziness, someday he goes on a high mountain, and there he falls asleep. And he awakens after 20 years. Can you imagine a guy who is sleeping for 20 years? Can you imagine that? How he can sleep for 20 years? What happens in those 20 years? And what all things have changed in those 20 years? So we have to look in the story what have changed in those 20 years and why he slept for those 20 years. It is because of his laziness or something else. So let's start with the story. Many years ago, at the foothills of the Catskill Mountains, was a little village. In the village lived a simple, good-natured fellow named Rip Van Winkle. He was a kind neighbor, ready to help anyone. Everyone in the village liked him. The children of the village shouted with joy whenever they saw him, because he played with them. He taught them to fly kites and shoot marbles, and told them long stories. So in this paragraph, it is told that there was a man whose name is Rip Van Winkle, and he is living in the village which is at the foothills of the Catskill Mountains. He is very good in nature, and he is also very kind. Due to this, everybody likes him. Even the children also liked him very much because he was also playing with them, and he taught them to fly kites and shoot marbles, and also told them long stories. That is why children liked him very much. The only problem with Rip was that he was very lazy. He did no work on his own farm and just idled away his time. His fences were falling to pieces. His cow was going astray. Weeds grew on his farm. Rip's constant companion was his dog named Wolf. To avoid work, he would walk away into the forest with his dog. So, here it is told that the only problem with the Rip is that he was very lazy. As I told you that he was very lazy, and because of his laziness he doesn't want to do any work in his own farm, and as he didn't do any work in his own farm, that is why weeds have grown in his farm and fences are falling down, and his cow is going in wrong direction, and one thing is there that Rip has a constant companion, or you can say a every time friend, whose name is Wolf, and Wolf is a dog. And sometimes to avoid work, so that he can go everywhere, he go to the forest with his dog. In this picture here, you can see that Rip is with his dog, that is his constant companion, and children are also laughing and playing with the Rip. One day, Rip just walked on and reached the highest part of the mountains. It was late in the afternoon when he reached there. Tired after his long climb, he lay down and began daydreaming. It was soon evening, and he realized it would be night by the time he reached his village. So what happens? One day he goes on and walks so much that he reached on a highest part of a mountain. And when he reached there, he found that it is late afternoon, and because he has walked so much, so he was very tired. So he thought, let's take some rest. So he lay down and started daydreaming. And after waking up, he realized that it was soon to be evening, and when he go back to his village, it was soon to be night. So he thought, I should have to go, otherwise it would be night. Suddenly, he heard a voice calling out, "Rip Van Winkle, Rip Van Winkle." He looked around and saw a short old man with thick hair and a grizzled beard walking towards him with a barrel. He made signs to help him carry the barrel. So what happens when he thought that I should have to go back to my village, he heard a voice calling his name. When he looked around, then he saw an old man with a grey beard, and he is very short, and that old man is carrying a barrel. Barrel is a wooden cylindrical container, and that man is carrying that container, and that man is making signs so that Rip Van Winkle can help that man. Now what happened? Rip hurried to help the stranger, who caught his hand tightly. Together they reached a place where there were some more old-looking men playing ninepins. They were all dressed up the same way, and all of them had beards of various shapes and colors. Even though they were playing a game, their faces were serious and there was silence. So now what happens? When that old man is making sign for help, Rip saw him and he hurried to help that old man. That old man catches his hand very tightly, hold his hand very tightly, and together with the barrel they reached a different place. And after reaching there, what they find, there are some more old looking odd man like that the previous one, that small man with a long white grey beard. So there are more that kind of mans and they are playing nine pins. Now you will ask, what are nine pins? You may have a question, what are nine pins? So nine pins is a game in which there are 9 bottles, or you can say 9 pins, and you have to put them down with a rolling ball. So that game is a 9 pins. And all the odd men there were dressed in the same way, but they have beards, long beards of different shapes and colors. So in this picture you can see that there are small odd looking men with different colors of beards, and that barrel, cylindrical wooden barrel is there. Now when they are playing the 9 pins, but they are serious and there was a silence. When we are playing games, we all are very excited and we are making sounds of different kinds. We are saying hurrah, come on. But they are, even though they are playing, there was silence. The only sound was the noise of the balls, which echoed in the mountains like thunder. So the only sound there is the noise of the balls with which they are playing. As Rip and his companion reached them, they stopped playing and stared at Rip with a fixed gaze. Rip was really frightened. His companion emptied the contents of the barrel into glasses and made Rip drink it. Rip obeyed as he was trembling with fear. Since he was thirsty, he drank a few more glasses and slowly fell into a deep sleep. Now what happens? As the Rip and his companion, now here the companion is that old man who is asking for the help with the barrel. So as both of them reached there, all the other men, odd looking men, stopped playing and they started staring at the Rip with a fixed gaze. That means with a constant look, they are staring at the Rip. Now because of that, Rip was feeling scared and frightened, very frightened. Then his companion empty the contents of the barrel which he is taking with him. He emptied all the contents of that barrel into the glasses and asked Rip to drink it. And as the Rip is feeling very scared, so Rip obeyed that man and he drank it. Also, he was feeling very thirsty, so he drank more glasses of that drink. And soon after drinking, he goes into a deep sleep. Now let's see what happens next. On waking up, he found that he was at the place where he had first met the old man. He rubbed his eyes. It was a bright sunny morning. Surely I have not slept here all night, thought Rip. He looked around the wharf, but he was nowhere. Now what happens? After taking a deep sleep, when he wake up, he found that he was at the place where he first met the old man. He was not at the same place. He was at the place where he first met the old man. So he thought, surely I have not slept for whole night. So that is why he is asking to himself, surely I had not slept here for all night. Now let's see what happened. He looked around for Wolf, but he was nowhere. No, Rip whistled for him. Wolf, Wolf. He then shouted. No dog was to be seen. Where has this dog gone? He muttered to himself. He began to descend the mountains to go back to his village. Now, after waking up, he was shouting for his dog, but his dog doesn't find anywhere. So, where the dog has gone? So, he muttered to himself, where the dog is. The dog is with me, but now the dog is not anywhere. So, he thought, let's go back to the village, and there maybe I found my dog. So, he started to go back to his village by coming down from the mountains. As he neared the village, he met a number of people, but he didn't know any of them. The villagers also stared at him, equally surprised. Who is this man? Said one. So as he thought I should go back to my village, so when he coming near to his village, on the way he found lots of people, but he doesn't know anyone. All the people are stranger to Rip Van Winkle, and Rip Van Winkle also is a stranger for the people. So all the people are staring at him. One man has asked, who is that man? I have never seen him before, said another. Look at his long white beard and his wrinkled face. So what happens? Looking at the Rip Van Winkle, one man asked, who is this man? And the another one asked, I have never seen him before. And look at his white long beard and his old face. So on hearing this, Rip stroked his chin, and to his astonishment, he found his beard had grown a foot long and it was all white. So when the Rip Van Winkle heard that the man is saying that it has a long beard and full white, so he became surprised. He touched his chin, and then also he became more surprised that he has a long white beard which grew a foot long and it was all white. Then an old woman walked up to him and looked at his face for a moment. Then she exclaimed, it is Rip Van Winkle. Welcome home again, old neighbor. Where have you been these 20 long years? So when the Rip becomes surprised that he has grown a foot long white beard, suddenly an old woman come and he stared at Rip Van Winkle. Then she exclaimed with joy, Rip Van Winkle, where you have been those long 20 years. Then the Rip realized that he has slept for those long 20 years. That woman knows him because she was his old neighbor. And so, what do you think? Why the Rip slept for those long 20 years? Can you imagine a guy slept for those long 20 years? Is it because of his laziness he slept for those long 20 years? Or because he drank those drink? One more question is there. One question is that. The second question is, when he slept, he was at that place. But when he wake up, he was at the first place where he met the old man. So how he reached there? As he was sleeping, so who take him to that place? Now the third question is, where is the dog? The Rip didn't find his dog even in the village. So where the dog has lost? So these are some of the questions I am leaving with you. You have to give a thought to that. So let's see what all new words we have learnt in this poem. or this story. Idled away, to waste a period of time. Astray, away from correct path or direction. Constant, doesn't change with time. Companion, a person or animal with whom one spends a lot of time. Daydreaming, indulge in a daydream. Realized, understand clearly. Grizzled, having grey hair. Barrel, a cylindrical container. 9 pins, using 9 pins and played in an alley. Echoed, reflect back a sound. Gaze, look steadily. Frightened, afraid or anxious. Contents, the things that are held. Trembling, shaking. Muttered, say something in a low voice. Descent, moving downward. Stared, look something with one's eye wide open. Wrinkled, folds in skin. Stroked, move one's hand with gentle pressure. Astonishment, great surprise. Exclaimed, cry out suddenly in surprise. So, till now we have seen what all the new words have came in the chapter. So now, let's move to the question and answer. So, first question is, what did the frog do all day? So, you remember that we have read in the poem that the frog is very lazy and most of the time he slept on the log. So, now second question is, besides lazy, what other word can you think of to describe the frog? So, in the poem, from the poem it is understood that the frog is lazy. But besides laziness, what all other words we can think of to describe the frog? So, you have to think about what are the other words. Now, the third question is, did you like the frog's behavior? So, you have to tell that the frog is very lazy. So, you like that behavior of the frog or not? So, you have to answer in yes or no. Now, the fourth question is, what were the strange things about the men on the mountains? So, in the story, we have read that is Rip Van Winkle. We have read that there were some strange men who were playing the 9 pins. So, what are the strange things about those men? You have to remember and you have to answer. Now, the fifth question is, what kind of a man was Rip Van Winkle? So, from the chapter, from the story, we know that Rip Van Winkle was a good-natured and was a very kind neighbor and he was playing with the children. So, he was a very good-natured man, but he was a lazy man. So, now, let's look at the answers also. So, the first question was, what did the frog do all day long? So, the answer is, frog lolls all day upon a log. So, that means he was lying on the log all day and he was not doing any work. Now, the second question was, what other words can you think of to describe the frog? So, here I choose, he was a shirker and discourteous. Discourteous means impolite and shirker means a person who was making an excuse to do not work. So, he does not have to do any work. So, shirker is that kind of a person. So, here I have chosen shirker and discourteous. You can choose other words also to describe the frog. The third question was, did you like the frog's behavior? So, no, we did not like the frog's behavior. As we all know that frog is very lazy. So, we all know that a lazy person doesn't do any work. So, all people did not like those kind of persons. So, that is why we also write that No, we did not like the frog's behavior. The fourth question was, what were the strange things about the man that were there? So, the first is, they all were dressed the same way. So, did you remember that when we read the story, there were mans who were playing the nine pins, and the main thing about that is that they were all dressed in the same way, and all had beard of various shapes and colors. And when they are playing nine pins, I have told you that they were very serious. Their faces were very serious. But so this is also a strange thing about them, because when we are playing, we are making noise and we are very in joyful nature, but when they are playing, their faces were very serious and they also did not speak. So these are the strange things about those mans. Then the last was, what were the good things about the Rip Van Winkle. So he was a kind neighbor and he was a good natured man. He loves children and he was a very lazy man. These are the good things, but the bad thing is that he was a very lazy man. So here I present all the questions and answers, but you have to think about the questions and you have to write them in your own words. So in the end, I would just want to tell you that sometimes feeling lazy is good, but not always, because with laziness we doesn't get anything. Hard working is the key to success. So becoming a hard worker is a necessity for today's life. Thank you.